Welcome back, aliens. My name is Devin Reddy, and let's continue with the series on Python. Now, if you want to be a Python programmer, of course you have to work on project. Now, most of the time we work in a team, right? Of course you can make a solo project, but then if you want to make a big project, you'll be having multiple members. Let's say we have 3 members working on one project. Now, we have different options. You can divide the project in 3 different modules, and you can work on each module, or maybe you'll be having one module where multiple people can contribute. Now, what do you think? How will you share code? Now, one of the best way to share this 2 different code, let's say you are working on a project and then 2 other members are working on a project. Of course, you have to share your files, right? Of course, you have to merge it somewhere on one machine. How will you do that? One way, we use Gmail, right? So we share our codes on mails. Otherwise, we can use Dropbox. So we can create a folder and everyone will put those codes in one particular folder. That's how we can share. But then that's not an efficient way, right? If you want to share your code, so the first thing is you want to share your code, you want to merge it. The second thing you need is you also want to maintain the versions, and that can be done with the help of Git. In fact, there are other options as well. And if you want to know more about Git, you can check the description area. There's a link. That's a video about Git. Now the question is, if you are working on Python and if you are using PyCharm, how can you use Git? Specifically, we are talking about GitHub repository here. There are different repositories available like GitLab or Bitbucket, but here let's talk about GitHub. So the main idea is, how can you push your project, or how can you work with PyCharm and GitHub together? Example, let's say if you want to pull the project from GitHub, maybe someone else's code, and if you want to push your project on GitHub, how will you do that? That we'll see in this video. So let's move to the laptop. So let's get started. Now, if you want to work with PyCharm and GitHub, of course you need an account on GitHub, right? We don't have that. So step 1 would be create an account on GitHub. It's not that difficult. Enter your username, enter your email ID and password, and you're done. Luckily, I do have my account, so I will click on sign in here. So my username here is Training, and the password is something. I will click on sign in here, and you can see this is how GitHub looks like. Of course, if you have worked on before, you know what I'm talking about. Now, if you want to work with GitHub, the first thing you need is a repository. Now, why do we need a repository? So let's head back to our PyCharm. That's where you will be doing this, right? Now, if you open PyCharm, this is the window which you will see, right? It will ask you to create a new project, or it will say check out from version control. Of course, right? Git is one of the version control we have. Now, if you click on this, you have certain options. Of course, we are using Git here, and GitHub is one of the repository you can use. There are other repositories as well. We have GitLab, we have Bitbucket, you can use them. Now, when you talk about GitHub, you need a repository here using which you can push your project and pull it. So you can imagine a repository as a folder where you can put all your files. That's what we do in online storage, right? Example, we have Dropbox, we have Google Drive. So what we do, we create a folder there and we put all our files. So let's create a new repository. Of course, I do have a lot of repositories here. I can use them. Let me just create a new one. The moment I say new, it will ask you for the repository name. I will say this is just a demo by Git because that's a repository name we have. We can go with any name, doesn't matter. But since we are doing a demo for Python and Git, let's do that. Also ask you for the description. It's always a good idea to put a description which makes sense. Now it will give you 2 options. You can go for the private one or you can go for public one. Now public one is free. You don't have to pay for it. The moment you say private, of course you have to enter your credit card details and then they will charge you for this. Let's go with public, and here I will click on create repository, and that's it. This is the step you have to follow. You got your repository. Now you can access this repository using command line as well. You can see they have given some commands here, provided you have Git installed in your machine. So I do have Git on this machine. If you don't have Git installed, I would recommend you to do that. So in fact, in the description area, you will find a playlist for GitHub or Git. You can refer that, and there are some steps for installation. Otherwise, you can just go to Google here and you can search for Git. It's very easy. Now, once you got this repository, by default, your repository will be empty. You can create a new file here. That's your choice. I will simply create a new file. Now, this can be any file, okay? You can have a text file, you can have a Python file, you can have a Java file, doesn't matter. In this case, I will create Python file. I will name this as demo.py. You can have any name, doesn't matter, as mentioned. And here, you can type your code. So I will simply say, of course, you will not be running this code here. I will simply say print hello. That's it. Nothing much. Let me zoom in a bit. So you can see it says print hello. That's it. Nothing much. Now, once you have done this, once you have entered your code, the next thing you will do is you will save it. because if you don't save it, it will not be stored, of course, right? That's how thing works. But here you have to use a different command, which is commit. So when you say you are saving something, you have to say commit here, and you have to mention some, some comment. So you can do that here. Otherwise it will say create demo py. Let's do that. So let's say commit new file, and you can see we got our file here. In this file, if I open this, you can see we got print hello. But then of course you will not be making your project on GitHub, right? You will not be writing your code here. So of course, to write a code, we need to use a IDE. In this case, we are using PyCharm. So the question is, how will you pull this project in your PyCharm? It's very easy actually. You can simply say clone or download. You can click on download zip. It will give you a zip version. You can unzip it and you can open that project on your PyCharm. That's one way. Otherwise, what you can do, open PyCharm and say check out from version control, say git here. Now this is where you will enter the URL. The URL, this URL I'm talking about. So copy this URL, go back and paste. Now I'm not using git for the first time in PyCharm. I have done that before. If you are doing this for the first time, you will get a login to GitHub option here, or you may get it. So click on test, or if you get an option, just click on login and enter your username password. It will accept it. Simply say clone. Now based on the repository, it will create a project for you. First of all, it will create a directory in your PyCharm projects. Click on yes, I want a folder. And you can see on the left hand side, we got our project. You can see we have this project here. Now if I expand this project, you can see we have demo.py, and this is the exact code which we have done there, right? Print hello. Now, of course, you want to make some changes, right? That's why we are doing this. When you work on a project, you will be adding a lot of features. Now, of course, in a project, you will be having a lot of people. You're not the only one. So let's say we have 5 people working on a team, or maybe 3 people. And of course, everyone will have their own task. So you have divided the project into 3 different tasks. They are working on it, and you are working on demo.py, or maybe 2 people are working on the same file. You can do your work. So I will say print, and I'm typing my own code. So I'm Telisko here. So we have 2 people. One is Telisko and one is Naveen. So Telisko is working on this machine. This is the first machine we are working with. So we are saying welcome to Telisko. Now whatever I am doing now, it is happening in my machine. Okay, so I can run it. I can test it. Everything should work. In this case, it says, do you want to add the following file to Git, which is the idea vcs.xml. We don't want this file to be stored on the repository. Let's say no. I just want this one file. Right click and say run demo. You can see you can type the code, you can run this on your machine, but this code is available only on your machine. And we are not even maintaining the version control now. So if you want to achieve that version control system, you need to say commit every time. So every time you say commit, you can maintain the versions. But how do we say commit? Simply saving this file will not be making sure that it is committed. In that case, if you want to commit it, just right click from here and say git. You have to say commit directory. The moment you say commit, it will ask you for the message. Okay, so let's enter some message. I will say one line added. Now your message should be logical because some other people can also see your code, and your code should make sense by reading the comments. So that's one thing you have to remember. Now, this is the older version and this is the new version which you have done now. So in the older version, we only had hello. In the new version, we have 2 lines. Now this is the earlier commit version. Okay, this is the ID for the earlier commit. You can actually refer this from the website. So if you can go to the website, you can see the commit which we have done. This was the ID, which is A319, and this is the same ID. So you can see we have A319F3 something. So this is the same ID which we have, which you can see here. This is the earlier commit. The moment you say commit, now this will not be stored on the remote server. Okay, basically when you work with Git, we have 2 things. We have local repository and we have a remote repository. Every time you say commit, it will save that in a local repository. Okay, which means if I go back to the GitHub website and if let's go back there, let's see the file. If I refresh, you can see we only have 1 line here. So that means whatever changes you have done in your PyCharm is not been reflected on the GitHub website or your remote repository. If you want to reflect it here, we need to do one more thing. So right click here, say git, and you have to say repository. You can see we have an option of push. So you have to push this project on the remote repository. So click on this and simply click on push. Now, if you're doing this for the first time and if you have not logged into your GitHub repository, then it will give you a prompt. You have to enter your username and password. Since I have done that before, it is not asking. So let's go back to the website. So it says push successful. Let's do that. Let's open this and you can see we have 2 lines. So it is so easy to have a communication between a GitHub repository and a PyCharm. So in the initial state, you are pulling the project from the website and then you are pushing it to the website, or you can say remote repository. it's always a good idea to keep your project here. Now, you will say, what's the advantage? Let's say tomorrow I'm changing my machine, okay? So let's say I'm working on this machine now. Tomorrow I'm going to, let's say, different city, and then I got a new laptop. And that, of course, we don't have my project. I can simply pull the project from GitHub repository, and at the end, I can simply push it. I don't even have to use any online storage. I don't have to use pen drive or other stuff. That's one of the use, okay? We have some other advantage as well. Now, you'll be saying, what are the advantage? Let's say we have two people working on this, and both want to contribute to the same repository. So in this case, we are working with two machines. One, the current machine which you are saying it is of Telisco. The other machine which we are going to see in the next video will be Navin Reddy's laptop. And now Navin Reddy want to contribute to this project. How will you do that? That's where Git comes into picture. You don't have to use Gmail to share your files. You don't have to use pendrive to share your files. So let's see how that works in the next video. So I hope you are enjoying this series. Let me know in the comment section and do subscribe for further videos. Bye bye everyone.